जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय। जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय। जय गौरानिताय। जय किशोर किशोरी जय किशोर किशोरी जय किशोर किशोरी जय किशोर किशोरी। जय जगन्नाथ जगन्नाथ। जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा। जय प्रभुपादा 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 श्रील प्रभुपादा। जय गुरुदेवा गुरुदेवा गुरुदेवा। जय गुरुदेवा। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद जी की जय। ब्रह्म मध्व गौड़ीय संप्रदाय आचार्य गुरुवर की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। जय श्री ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयौदीरयेत्। शृण्वन्ता स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवण कीर्तनं हृदयन्तस्तभद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सतां। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। आराध्यो भगवान् व्रजेश तनयस् तद्धाम वृंदावनम रम्या काचिदुपासना व्रजवधुवर्गे न तया कल्पिता। श्रीमद् भागवत पुराणयमलं प्रेम पुमार्थो महान् श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभोर्मतैदं नायत्रयाग्रह परः। आजानुलंबितो भुजौ कनकाय अवधातो संकीर्तनै पितरवो कमलायताक्षो विश्वंभरो द्विजवरो युगधर्मपालो वंदे जगत प्रिय करो करुणावतारो। नवनीरद निंदित कांतिधरम रसोसागर नागर भूपवरम शुभवंकिम चारु शिखंड सिकिम भज कृष्ण निधिम व्रजराजसुतम। राधिका सरोद इंदु निंदिमुख मंडली वंदिये श्रीपाद पद्म वृषभानुनंदिनी। कदाचित कालिंदी तट विपिन संगीत तरवो मुदा वीरी नारी कमल स्वाद मधुप। रमा शंभु ब्रह्मा गणेशर्चित पदो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे। So we will be serving Granthra Srimad Bhagwatam today as per the chronological order, canto number 10, chapter 47, verses 28 and 29. Is that what is on the board? Can somebody confirm? Thank you. Hare Krishna. श्रूयतां प्रिय संदेशो भविता नाम सुखावह यमदायत गतो भद्र अहं भर्तुरहस्करः। Translation. My good ladies, now please hear your beloved's message, which I, the confidential servant of my master, have come here to bring you. Next verse. This verse doesn't have a purport, so we will be going also into the next verse, verse number 29. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhavitanam Viyago Mena Hi Sarvatmana Kvachita Yatha Bhutani Bhuteshu Kham Vayuragnir Jalam Mahi Tataham Cha Manah Prana Bhutendriya Gunashraya. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Please repeat. Bhavitanam Viyogo Me. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, the one. Oh, yeah, that's the one. Okay. Shruyatam Priya Sandesho Bhavitanam sukhavah Yam adya gato bhadra Aham bharturahas karaha. Would anybody like to repeat? Shruyatam priya sandeshu Bhavathanam sukhavah Yam adaya gato bhadra Aham bharturahas karaha. Next verse. Bhavitanam viyogo me nahi sarvatmana kvache yatha bhutani bhuteshu kham vayu agnir jalam mahi tatha aham cha manah pranabhuteshu indriya gunashrayah. You can repeat the word-to-word translation, please. Sri Bhagavan Vachaha, the Supreme Lord said, Bhavitanam, of you women, Viyogaha, separation, me, from me, na, is not, he, indeed, Sarva Atmana, from the soul of all existence, Kvachit, ever, Yatha, as, Bhutani, the physical elements, Bhuteshu, in all created beings, Kham, the ether, Vayu Agnihi, air and fire, Jalam, water, Mahi, earth, Tatha, so, Aham, I, Cha, and Manaha, of the mind, Prana, vital air, Bhuta, material elements, Indriya, bodily senses, Guna, and of the primal modes of nature, Ashrayaha, present as their shelter. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, his sincere followers ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. The Supreme Lord said, you are never actually separated from me. For I am the soul of all creation, just as the elements of nature, ether, air, fire, water, and earth are present in every created being. So I am present within everyone's mind, life, air, and senses, and also within the physical elements and the modes of material nature. Purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad, the apparently philosophical language of the Lord's statement conceals a deeper meaning. The Supreme Lord was secretly telling the gopis that He, by way of reciprocating their special love for Him, was present with them, not only as the soul of all creation, but also as their special lover. In this sense of the verse, the word guna indicates the gopis' special divine qualities, which attracted Sri Krishna. And the word sarva atmana, which we have here translated in reference to Lord Krishna himself, corresponding to the word may, which is also in the instrumental case, is also understood in the sense of sarva atha, or completely. In other words, although in one sense Lord Krishna was absent, he would never be completely absent, since since in his spiritual form he is always in the hearts of the gopis. In Krishna, the book, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and other books, Srila Prabhupada has elaborately explained the reason Lord Krishna separated himself from the gopis was to intensify their love for him. And as Uddhav noted, to bless other devotees by revealing to them the intensity of the gopis' love. In fact, the Lord was spiritually present with the gopis since they are his eternal associates. Srila Vishwanath Chakravartipad further points out that foolish persons will conclude that Sri Krishna's use of philosophical language meant that the Lord was trying to bring the gopis to the point of liberation by explaining basic points of Krishna conscious philosophy. In truth, the gopis are the most exalted, liberated souls, and their pastimes with Sri Krishna must be understood with the help of authorized acharyas. When the gopis came from the rasa dance, Sri Krishna tried to preach karma yoga to them, emphasizing ordinary ethics and morality, but the gopis were beyond that. Similarly, Lord Krishna now offers them Gyan Yoga or metaphysical philosophy, but this is also inadequate for the gopis, who have achieved spontaneous, unalloyed love for Sri Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manoya Vishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Srila Prabhupada Ji ki jai, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya Acharya Guru Var ki jai. Nigam Kalpataro Galitam Phalam Sukhamukha Dravam Mrutam Samvitam Pibata Bhagwatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavaka. So, continuing into this wonderful Brahmar Geet, the song of the bee, wherein the essence of this song, or this beautiful conversation which is like a song between, in particular, Radharani and the bee, has been very nicely depicted in this 47th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagwatam. And as some of you all may be following online or even in person for the entire chapter, Uddhav has been sent by Krishna from Dwarka for twofold reasons. One may consider one as the external reason and one as an internal reason. The external reason was to kind of find out how the gopis were and how the Vrajvasis were. Of course, it is not external in one sense, but, just to delineate two reasons. And the other deeper reasons being because Uddhav was his very good friend. He was a great scholar, a disciple of Brihaspati, and we knew the Vedas very well. So he thought this will be a good person to go and try to pacify the gopis in Vrindavan in his separation. And Uddhav would probably speak a lot of philosophical cases or philosophical points he would present to the gopis. And especially here also in this particular verse, it is mentioned that Gyan or metaphysical knowledge is being presented by Krishna himself in the form of a bee to the gopis, which Uddhav says that I am bringing a message for you all from Krishna. So I believe last weekend, I remember Srila Prabhupada mentions in his purport that it is the opinion of some Rasikacharyas in our Gaudiya Vaishnava line that the bee itself was Krishna. He came in the form of a bee. So some metaphysical education, philosophical education is being spoken in this verse. But it is also very external, but there is a deeper, much deeper meaning which Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad and Srila Jiva Goswami explain this verse. So we will try to dive deep into it as much as per my capability. Very exalted subject matter. And one of the internal reasons why Krishna sent Uddhav is Uddhav was on the platform of the highest platform of Gyan. You know, he already knew Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, perfectionist. But he did not know what real love is or bhakti. So he did a huge favor to Uddhav by sending him to Vrindavan so that he could learn what prema is. That is, and then another deeper internal reason is separation is just not felt by the gopis or the devotees of Raj, but separation is also felt by Krishna. And we forget, it's not a one-way thing. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sa tathaiva bhajamiham, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. This is a very interesting verse. It is based on every level, right from the atheist to the highest conception of theism. Atheist, as an example, considering this verse, ye yatha mam prapadyante, the atheist does not believe in God. He is Gnostic. So, how does Krishna reciprocate with him? He reciprocates because he is situated in his heart as Paramatma. And he gives him 1,000 or 1,000,000 reasons how to run away from him. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has said that. Srila Prabhupada has commented. So if somebody wants to misuse their minute independence, and if they want to run away from Krishna, Krishna is the most expert. He will give you ideas on how to run away from him. So anybody who's approached by a saintly person approaches an atheistic person, so he will try to argue, oh, there is no God, and if there is God, then why is there so much suffering, and so many other reasons and so many other logical arguments they bring forth. They become very agnostic because sometimes they go through many experiences in their own personal life that they see. I had one personal experience that I want to relate very quickly. When I first went to Canada in the first year, I believe, I was trying to find a business and it was difficult for me to kind of settle down. So then I took up a temporary job with a lab, and my job was just to work about 4 hours in the evening collecting samples from different doctors' offices. So I was under training with one very senior person who had been with the company for many years. And he had also retired, and he was a very well-off person actually. He probably had a multi-million-dollar house, but he was doing it to keep himself busy. So, we had a route that was about an hour and a half away. and there were doctors in that region that we were supposed to pick up samples from their offices. And when we went there, on the way, hour and a half drive, we used to have conversation with them. His name was John. So John was completely agnostic. He was a very atheistic person, I found out through my conversations. So I just left it like that, a little bit of philosophy and what I believed I mentioned to him. Then the next day in my training in the city, we had gone to one of the hospitals. And in the hospital, we were supposed to park in the back by the morgue, because that's where we can park and then we can go upstairs through the back elevators. Then he showed me, you know what that is in front of us? I said, yeah, I think I see a hearse, like a coroner's van. But do you know what the little box is that he just put out on the floor? That's an infant that had just died. What kind of a God this is? Can you imagine the pain that the parents are going through? And this little infant, what has he or she done? You know what I mean when we had our conversation yesterday? So the point is that he wanted to run away from his belief of God, and God gives him, who is situated within his heart, different arguments that he can make so that he can even further run away. So similarly, ye yatha mam prapadyante tamsa tathaiva bhajamiham is even for the most simple devotee who may have just had some basic belief to the highest conception of theism, where Krishna will reciprocate according to the intensity of the love or the faith that a devotee exhibits. So here Krishna is feeling that pain of separation from the gopis, and he wanted to also express that via Uddhav to them. So it is just not one way. Sometimes we always think about devotees and the pain of devotees, but Krishna is in a lot of pain too when it comes to separation. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sa tathaiva bhajamiham. So here in this conversation between Uddhav, the bee, and Radharani and the gopis, Uddhav says that, I have my good ladies. The word that he uses is bhadraha. Bhadra means auspicious or good. And bhadraha means, it's a feminine term, which is, Srimad Bhagwatam is amazing, how every word has such a deep meaning, and it represents, so the most auspicious in the entire creation are the devotees, where even Krishna wants to take shelter of them, right? Nandanandan Sri Krishna took shelter of the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Last 12 years in the Jagannath Puri, in the Gambhira. And what was it? He wanted to take shelter of Radharani, to obtain the mood of Sri Radha. Because her prema is so exalted that he could not understand. He wanted to understand her prema. That what is her love. He wanted to, Vasu Ghosh, one great associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, I don't know if anybody knows, Kishore Kishori appeared to Vasu Ghosh. Just like Radha Govind Dev Ji appeared to Rup Goswami. Madan Mohan Ji appeared to Sanatan Goswami. Damodar Ji appeared to Jiva Goswami. Gopinath Ji appeared to Madhu Pandit. Radha Raman Ji appeared to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So, some of the most exalted Vaishnavas, like Srinath Ji or Gopalnath Ji, appeared to Madhavendra Puri Pad. Of course, the Vallabh Sampradaya devotees don't believe that. They say that they appeared to Sri Vallabhacharya. Yes, he appeared. But primarily, first time he appeared to Madhavendra Puri, the grand guru of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is initiating Guru Srila Ishwar Puri Pad, and Ishwar Puri Pad's Guru is Madhvendra Puri. He is also known as Yati Madhvendra. Yati means one who is extremely like an avdhut, who doesn't care about his bodily needs, is so absorbed in Krishna consciousness that, in fact, Madhvendra Puri was so exalted that he never asked anybody of anything, not even food. If somebody gave him food or water, he would take it. And if somebody would not, he would go hungry and thirsty. So, at Govardhan, near Govind Kund, at that point, actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions about the pastimes of Madhvendra Puri through his lotus mouth, about his Param Gurudev, like our Param Gurudev is Srila Prabhupada, Guru's Guru. These pastimes are mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. How Gopal Nath Ji came in his dreams and said, I'm buried here on the top of Govardhan Hill, please take me out. And next morning, he takes the Vrajvasis and he excavates that area, and there, lo and behold, the beautiful deity of Gopal Nath Ji or Srinath Ji, which is presently in Nathdwara, 30 kilometers from Udaipur. So, he appeared to Madhvendra Puri Pad. So like that, the different great Vaishnava acharyas, Vasugosh, he mentions in one of his poems, Yadi gaur na hoito, tabe ki hoito, ke mone dharitam de. Radhara mahima, prema rasa sima, jagat janat ke. Yadi gaur na hoito, tabe ki hoito, ke mone dharitam de. Vasugos Prabhu says that if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not appeared, yadi gaur na hoito, Radhara Mahima, the fame or the glories of Radharani, Jagata Janata Ke, how would the world have known the glories of Srimati Radharani? Yadi gaur na hoito, tabe ki hoito, kemone, I would have not been able to bear living. I would have died a long time ago if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not appeared. Radhara Mahima, Prema Rasa Sima, the highest zenith or the crescendo of love would not have been revealed to this world if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not appeared. Very beautiful composition. So, that is auspiciousness. Bhadra, the word that is with Bhadraha. Oh, auspicious ladies. The most auspicious are the devotees of Raj. And within the devotees of Raj, the gopis in the Madhurya Rasa, in the conjugal love. And within the gopis of conjugal love, one special gopi, Srimati Radharani, is the most. All the gopis have got Mahabhav. But Srimati Radharani within Mahabhav has two extra amazing exchanges or feelings. It is known as Madanakya and Mohanakya, which none of the other gopis have. It is her exclusive domain. And all this in this particular song is in when she is in Madanakya Bhav. Madan means she's completely intoxicated. She doesn't know what she's talking. And in the previous 8-9 verses, we find that in that conversation, the different delineations are given. When she speaks incoherently, she speaks apparently to a normal person, it may sound very harsh. The love has reached such a high crescendo that she is cursing the lover. So all these known as Prajalpa, Sujalpa, Ujalpa, there are 10 different delineations that our Acharya Vishwanath Chakravarti has given in the Ujjwal Nilamani. And Rup Goswami has also wonderfully elaborated. This whole chapter is about rasa. And it has been covered with philosophy. So in today's particular verse, philosophy is being apparently being explained to the gopis. Just like For so many years in our wonderful movement of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, we heard the most fundamental philosophy: you are not this body, you are a spirit soul. Jiver Swarup Hoy Krishnir Nityadas, the eternal constitutional position of the Jiva or the soul is the eternal servant of Krishna. And so many different philosophies that are packed in the 700 verses of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. But there comes a point, I had mentioned, I believe in the previous two lectures in the last couple of Saturdays, that there is the opulence of the Supreme and there is the sweetness of the Supreme. The opulence of the Supreme is like the resume of a person applying for a job, and he tries to put everything, there's like 100 people sending out resumes for one position, and they are submitting their opulence. I have studied in Harvard, and I have attained these degrees, and I have worked here and I've worked there, and this is what my remunerations have been in the past, and I can do this and I can do that. All these opulences are there, and based on those opulences, the HR department shortlists those resumes and then goes through the few selected, maybe 5 are selected, and then they go to the panel who is hiring, and then when they see that, they call them an interview in person. Out of that, one is chosen. All 5 are highly qualified for the job. But the one that is chosen is because when they meet in person, they see the sweetness of that person. Oh, those qualities, they manifest. He is very soft-spoken. He is willing to hear. And it seems that he is a very good problem solver because he has got good communication skills, etc. I'm giving a mundane example. So by meeting in person, that sweetness is so similarly, the opulence of Sri Krishna is in the Bhagavad Gita. We get attracted to the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, known as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But there should come a time when our bhakti, sadhana bhakti, should be so wonderful that we should enter into the Raganuga Bhakti, which our Goswamis and even Srila Prabhupada has given in his books, but sometimes in a direct way and sometimes in a very hidden way. And the Raganuga Bhakti is love of Krishna. Not getting attracted to his opulence, but getting attracted to his sweetness, to his madhurta aspect, the sweetness. And especially the sweetness in madhurya, in the conjugal love. So here, obviously the B starts with because Srimad Bhagwatam is heard by many, many different classes of people. And when many different classes of people hear Srimad Bhagwatam, sometimes Srimad Bhagwatam has concealed many, many wonderful meanings that only pure devotees who have that, they're known as the Rasic devotees, or they're also known as what is the word? I'm trying to catch that word. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has used that in one of his bhajans. Gaur Amar Jai Shabasthane Korilo Brahmana Range Shai Sthana Heribo Ame Pranay Bhakata Sange. The word is Pranay. Pranay, devotees, means one who has understood the deep, loving exchanges of Radha and Krishna. Those are known as Pranay devotees. We sing that in the Mangal Arati, the 6th verse every day. Nikunja yuno ratikeli siddhyay yaya alibir yuktir apekshaniya tatra ati dakshat ati vallabhasya vande guru Shri Charanaravindam. Shri Vishwanath Chakradipad is offering obeisances to all those gurus in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who are pranay bhaktas, who have understood the conjugal Shri Radhika Madhavyor Apara Madhurya Leela Guna Rupa Nam Nam. Those who have understood the unlimited pastimes of the sweetness in the Madhurya Leela and the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. Shri Radhika Madhavyor Apar. Apar means unlimited. Madhurya Leela, the conjugal love. Guna, their transcendental qualities. Rupa, their beauty. And the holy names with the deeper meanings that lead to the conjugal rasa, to the madhurya rasa. Guna. And how are they? Prati shana, every moment. Prati shana swadana, they are relishing it every moment. And with great greed, lolupasya, vande guru Sri Charanarvindam, I offer my obeisances unto such rasik or pranay devotees. So, in this particular verse, it is hidden because Srimad Bhagwatam, as I mentioned, many classes of people here, and that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Bhagavad Shuno Bhagavad Sthane. Mahaprabhu has given these instructions, just like many scriptures, like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad, and many, many Vedic scriptures, even the Mayavadis speak and they recite the slokas and they give their purports and their definitions. But actually they are Mayavadi Krishna Pradi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again. That the Mayavadis are offensive of Krishna. They are actually killers of Krishna. They are killing Krishna. They're speaking about Bhagavad Gita, but they're speaking in a metaphysical way. Oh, Krishna is not a real person. It is just some symbolic. No. Krishna is a real person. So they don't believe that, they believe that they themselves are God. They believe that everything that we see, even we see the deities of Krishna, or if Krishna were to personally appear in front of us, it is because of illusion we are imagining that this is Krishna. Where it is the illusion, I'm imagining that this temple is existing or you devotees are present here. It is a figment of my imagination. It is like a dream. In reality, all this doesn't exist. Everything is sarvam idam khalau brahman. Everything is spiritual, but it is completely nirgun. It doesn't have any form. It is in the form of simply an energy, and I am that energy. When I am fully realized, I will become one. I will merge into the supreme Brahman. I will merge. Aham Brahmasmi. That is their conclusion by studying the Vedas. Similarly, those who are reading Srimad Bhagwatam and they hear from professional speakers, then they will be misled. And these professional speakers will never be able to explain the inner meanings. And the manifestation of Srimad Bhagwatam is such that the secret is there. Even the previous 8 verses prior to that was spoken in this chapter, it is Srimati Radharani speaking them, but Radharani's name is not there. So only a pure Rasik or a Pranay devotee can know, because they are present during this conversation between the bee and Uddhav in the form of gopis. Just like supposing if one of us has been at a certain place at a certain time and have witnessed personally a particular event, then we can relate, oh yeah, I was there. So these acharyas who are in the form of gurus, they come, but they are actually gopis, they are manjaris. So they have been present, so they know what their dear Radharani, Prana Sakhi Radharani spoke to that bee. And that is the reason why they are able to give their special commentaries, like in Ujjwal Nilamani, Rup Goswami in all his wonderful Rasik books, like Raghunath Das Goswami, and so many other wonderful books that are there. And Srila Prabhupada himself, he has mentioned that in Chaitanya Charitamrita and even in this purpose. So, in this verse, some basic philosophy is spoken that you are actually never separated from me. I am the soul of all creation. So all this is very basic. Just as the elements of nature, ether, air, fire, water, and earth are present in every created thing, so I am present in everybody's mind, in everybody's heart, in the prana, in the life air and senses, and also within the physical elements and the modes of material nature. So, like this, such basic philosophy, that is also something similar that is mentioned in the Brahma Samhita in chapter 5, verse number 36. Eko api asau rachiyantum jagadanda kotim ya shakti rasti jagadanda chaya anda chayayad antah andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So, Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he translates this particular verse as, he is an undifferentiated entity as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms, that are scattered throughout the universe at the same time. Such is the primal Lord whom I adore. So Lord Brahma is also speaking the same philosophy about Krishna's omnipresence, which is one of the qualities of God: omniscience, omnipresent, and omnipotent. So here, the omnipresence of the God, and I believe last Sunday when I spoke on our eternal Savior, Nrsimhadev Bhagwan, the word Vishnu means one who is all-pervading. When we translate from Sanskrit to English, so one who is present everywhere is known as Vishnu. So he's present in every atom, he's present in everybody's heart. So what he's trying to do is, he's trying to actually tease the gopis by saying, I'm in your heart, I'm, just like air, water, fire, ether is there in everybody's body. I'm there. So, in other words, there is some sarcasm that he's trying to portray, because that is the beauty in the conjugal rasa. In the Madhurya rasa, nothing is straightforward. Krishna is the God, the Shyamam Tribanga Lalitam Niyata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. What is the Krishna? He has got the beautiful three-bent form. And he's three-bent, that means he's also teda. In all respects, he is extremely sarcastic. Whatever he speaks, he says something, he means something. And it is vice versa. And the gopis are experts because he learns all this from the gopis. So their love, just like a very loving wife, always has to be sarcastic to the husband. Yeah, you come late every day. I'm waiting for you. Who cares for me? Nobody cares for me, I'm just simply like a doormat, things like that. I sometimes hear that from my wife also. You ever think about me? You've been gone for 3 hours and you haven't even called me once. So, that's the kind of, caring you have, and then you say that you care for me. So, that sarcasm, that deep sarcasm is there. If we find it, it is there in this material world, because everything in this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Even within the so-called love that we express between different relationships is there in the spiritual world, and that is the kaya, and this is the chaya. Just like as you see my hand here, the real object is there, but you can see the shadow. If the real object is not there, then you will not be able to see the shadow. So, but the difference in the spiritual world and the material world is everything is for the pleasure of Sri Krishna, and Krishna acts for the pleasure of his devotees. But here, the so-called love and the affection, etc., is nothing but kama. It is a lust which is full of sense gratification. It doesn't have to be sex. Kama means, that you scratch my back, I scratch your back. And the moment we are not able to do that, then all friendships, they go into the gutter. And all relationships, whether even a 20 or a 40-year-old husband and wife relationship, ends up in a divorce, because they have not been able to give each other sense gratification that brought them together. And so now, because you cannot do this for me, but the gopis' love is completely unconditional. And when Mahaprabhu obtains the bhav of Radharani in the Gambhira, in the 8th verse of the Chaitanya Sistastakam, full-fledged, full-bloomed mood, Nandanandan Krishna, his goal is to obtain that mood of Srimati Radharani. And when he gets that, he's speaking like Radharani in the 8th verse. Ashlishya pada ratam pinashtumam adarshanam marma harto karotuva yatha tatha va vidhato lampato mat prananathas sa evana para. So again here Srimati Radharani is speaking in particular. in the 8th verse of the Chaitanya Sistastakam, in the mood of Sri Radha, Krishna is speaking, that whether you kick me or embrace me, you are my master, birth after birth after birth. There's nobody else besides you. So that kicking and embracing means the separation and union. Krishna constantly, here Srila Prabhupada mentions that in the end, no, right here somewhere. Let me read this in particular. Right here. In the book Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and other books, Srila Prabhupada has elaborately explained the reason Lord Krishna separated himself from the gopis. And that was for what reason? To intensify their love for him, as Uddhav noted. So intensification of the love, so that separation and union, sometimes Krishna says, oh, I'm going to disappear. So that is almost like, ignoring the gopis who give him so much love for Krishna. But what is the reason for doing that? To intensify the love of gopis. Krishna will only give so much pain to someone who can tolerate it. So the gopis can tolerate the highest separation, the highest pain. And the more pain and separation one can tolerate, the more sweetness the love becomes. More sweetness in love happens because of them. Because of that. And not all devotees are capable of handling that. That is, the devotees in Vaikuntha, the devotees in all the other different planetary systems that are there in the Vaikuntha Loka, they are not that capable as much as the gopis of Vrindavan to get that pain and that separation, because that is the reason why the Lord of Vaikuntha, whether it is Lord Narayana, Vishnu, Lord Ramachandra, etc., there's always the physical presence. And there's always service in presence or in union with the devotee. But in the Brahma-Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the highest conception of theism, even within the Vaishnava communities, we find in Vrindavan there are so many exalted Vaishnavas that are bona fide, that they are in the Gopi Bhav as well, very exalted. But there's nothing like the bhav of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's line, because in their bhav, it is service in union. But in there's one additional factor, not only service in union, but service in separation. Service in Vipralamba bhav. Like we find in Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj's Pranam Mantra specifically, Nama Gaura Kishoraya Shakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padam Bhujayate Nama. That is the line of our acharyas. So I offer my obeisances to Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. Nama Gaur Kishoraya, Sakshat Vairagya Murte. He is the embodiment of austerity. Vipralamba Rasambode. He is the ocean in serving Radha and Krishna in separation. Vipralamba Rasa. Rasa means the rasic mellows, the pranay. Bhakta, which I was speaking. Padam Bhojai Nama. I offer my obeisances to his lotus feet. And that is the reason why Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who the father of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he could have easily initiated his son. He knew who his son is. He of course knows his own spiritual identity as a gopi, as a manjari. But he says, no, you take initiation from Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. He is very exalted manjari too. He is Guna manjari. And when you take initiation from him, you are actually an eternal servant of Guna Manjari and Rupa Manjari in Golok Vrindavan. So you should take initiation from him, from Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. And Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj was completely absorbed. He didn't study the Vedas, but he was an expert in pure bhakti. He was completely bereft of surroundings. He never used to associate with anyone. The only personality associated was with very selected devotees like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Otherwise, he would simply go to the cremation grounds. He did not even have beads. He would take the string and tie knots and chant the holy name. He would wear the cloth that was simply cast away in the cremation grounds. But that was the, the chadar that the dead bodies were covered with. He was such great vairagya, but always in the separation of Radha Krishna, thinking about those mellows. Sri Radhika Madhavya Rapara Madhurya Leela Guna Rupa Nam Nam Pratishana Svadanalopasya Vande Guroho Sri Charanaravindam. That was the bhav. So, uh, here, this temporary philosophy or the external philosophy that is being explained here, Jiva Goswami says that here the word Sarvatma, that means I am there in everybody's heart. Sarva Atma, which is also known as Super Soul. Paramatma. He is present everywhere. So I am there. So what's the big, so don't worry, don't feel the separation. I am there. So in one sense it is true. Naradji also mentions that when he talks about his own personal life to Vyasdev in the first canto, he mentions that how I became Narad, and when my mother died, she was the only person I had in my life, and Krishna even took her away. So I had cut all my attachments and I went into the forest, but I never felt I was alone. That's one very good lesson. We are never alone because Krishna is always with us as Paramatma. We should never forget that. A devotee will never, therefore we are never alone. That is why Krishna even says that in the Bhagavad Gita. What is that? Bhuktaram, Sarva Yagya Tapasyam, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, Surat Sarva Bhutanam, Gyatva Mam Shantirichyati. One can attain real peace if one just simply understands this fact. What is that fact? That I am the supreme enjoyer, number one. Bhuktaram Sarva Yagya Tapasyam. All the yagyas and all the austerities, everything that one does, I am the beneficiary. Srimad Bhagwatam also collaborates similarly. Vasudeva Paraveda, Vasudeva Paramakha, Vasudeva Param Jnanam, Vasudeva Param Tapa, Vasudeva Parodharma, Vasudeva Paragatihi. Grantraj Srimad Bhagwatam. The actual goal of Vasudeva Param Jnanam, if we are study different kinds of knowledge, and ultimately if we do not understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it is time wasted. The actual goal is Vasudeva Para Veda, studying the Veda. Vasudeva Param Makaha. If we are performing sacrifices, yagyas, it is to please Vasudeva. Vasudeva Param Jnanam, knowledge, is to ultimate culminate. That is what Sankhya Yoga is. Kapil Dev in the third canto explains this to his mother Dehuti. What is Sankhya Yoga? The analytical study of the 24 elements, which will ultimately conclude into the understanding of the super soul, which is situated in everybody's heart. So if we study all that, like even Newton, he used to say that we have only collected pebbles on the seashore. He believed in God. He used to read Bhagavad Gita. Albert Einstein used to read Bhagavad Gita. And they have acknowledged that we have not even scratched the surface of this phenomenal or this ephemeral world. So the thing is that if all these activities do not culminate into Krishna consciousness, then it is time wasted. Shrama eva hi kevalam. It is simply waste of time. So he Surat Sarva Bhutanam, Krishna says that I am the well-wisher of all. So what does a well-wisher do? A well-wisher is like a very good friend. And a good friend, what is that thing in English we say? A friend in need is a friend indeed. So that friend, he never leaves us. He's always, whether even what nonsensical different karmas that we may incur, he's constantly, even if we have to go into a cat's body, dog's body, hog's body, Lord Brahma's body, a human body, Krishna is always going with us as Paramatma. So which is his opulence, which is his duty, which is his friendliness, his kindness. But here Jiva Goswami explains that Paramatma means the word that is Sarvatma, which here is translated in reference to Lord Krishna himself, corresponding to the word may, which is also in the instrumental case is also understood in the sense of sarvatha or sarvatha or completely. In other words, although in one sense Lord Krishna was absent, he could never be completely absent since his spiritual form. He is always in the hearts and the minds of gopis. In one of the bhajans of Narottam Das Thakur, it is mentioned If anyone, probably Subal Prabhu, you know this, or anybody else. Ei bar karuna karo Vaishnav Gosai. Patita pavana toma vine ke honai. Jahara nikate gere papa dure jai. Amona dayala Prabhu. Keba kotha pai. Narottam Das Thakur is praying that to the Vaishnava Acharya. And in that prayer, he's saying that Tomara hriday sada Govinda Vishram. In your heart, Krishna is residing at great peace. Govinda Kohena Vaishnava Mama Pran. And Krishna says that Vaishnavas are my life and soul. So somebody can say that, yeah, what's the big deal? Krishna is present in the ant as the Paramatma. He's present in the devotee also as Paramatma. So Tomara Hriday, but here in particular, Narottam Das Thakur says, Tomara Hriday Govinda, very important word, Vishram. Vishram means he is absolutely feeling great. He is very pleased to be. He's present in all our hearts, but not necessarily he's pleased. He's doing it as a duty. Like, for example, a parent or any relationship, may take care of their kids or brother or family or whoever or relative. One may not be pleased with that person's behavior, but as a duty will supply all the necessities. That, okay, you are my younger brother, you're not working, but I will, supply you with whatever your schooling needs are, or your clothing or your housing or food. Don't worry about it. But the behavior of the brother may not be so nice and reciprocatory, but also out of duty, that person in this example is there for him. But he's not at Vishram. So the difference is that Krishna is present in everybody's heart. And we do so much nonsense sometimes. He just tolerates us because he's as a duty, he has to be there. He has taken a vow to be our best friend. So he will travel with us wherever we go. But he's not necessarily at ease or very pleased. And that is the quality of what the great Vaishnavas, he's always, just like, when you are pleased, when you are in your own home, when you come home, you're very, very relaxed. Sometimes we go to a hotel or we go to some friend's house, we cannot sleep that well. Although they are very hospitable because it's a new bed, a new pillow, giving a very, mundane example just so that we can drive this point home. But when we come back to our own nice home, even though it may not be very five-star like, but it's still our bed, it's still our home. We still have our loving environment. So we are at Vishram. So similarly, Krishna is at Vishram. So here, Jiva Goswami in particular says that, yes, spiritually speaking, Krishna has never left. He was in the bhav stage. And even Krishna, Prabhupada mentions, that tried to preach karma yoga to them, emphasizing ordinary ethics and morality. So here Prabhupada is, now the rasa is coming. See, that's what I'm talking about. Prabhupada's books has a lot of rasa. Some people say that, we should not be speaking about rasa. We should be speaking only philosophy. But here Prabhupada explicitly said, Krishna tried to preach karma yoga, jnana yoga, and he emphasizing ordinary ethics and morality to the gopis. So basically, when he's saying that, when Krishna, before starting the rasa dance, and Prabhupada has mentioned that as well, that prior to the rasa dance, Krishna has played the Venu Geet. These are all 5 different types of songs in the 10th canto. Venu means the flute. So when Krishna plays this flute song, like that, then when the separation, there is Gopi Geet. We find this is Brahmar Geet. Like that, there are about 5 different songs that are very prominent in rasa, in deep, deep conjugal love, separation and in union. So prior to Krishna, performing the rasa dance, he gives karma yoga and jnana yoga to the gopis. How is that? So I have one short, sweet Vraj bhajan that explains what Srila Prabhupada is saying. Krishna is playing the flute in the middle of the night in Vamshivata. So he is known as Gopinath. We have the 3 main deities, Madan Mohanji, Govind Devji and Gopinathji. Madan Mohanji represents Sambandha Gyan. Govind Devji represents the Abhidhyay. And Gopinath ji represents Prayojan. What does Sambandha means? Relationship. So when we are sadhaks, when we are following rules and regulations, we are trying to build a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's Sambandha. That's the Kripa of Madan Mohan ji. And Abhidya is the process. Govind Dev ji, by the mercy of Govind Dev ji, we will go through this process so nicely that we will enter into Raganuga Bhakti. And then when we enter into Raganuga Bhakti, Gopinath ji takes over. And he gives us the final culmination of Krishna Prema, where he reciprocates as Gopinath, the master of the gopis. And what does he do? Sriman Rasa Rasaram Bi Vamshi Vatastitaha Karshane Swaner Venur Gopi Shri Gopinathaya Shreyastuna. That is the pranam mantra when we, especially on the appearances and disappearances of our acharyas, we go through the pranam mantras of all the acharyas in our parampara, and then we also go through the three predominating deities of Vrindavan: Madan Mohan, Govind Dev ji, and Gopinath ji. So, this Gopinath, in the middle of the night in Vamshivat, he plays his flute. Vipina mahu murali hat saji Naval Kishora Naval Manamohana Naval Swaravam Shivaji Vipina mahu murali hat saji Klim Shrim Bija Prema Kovardhaka Vamshi Gita Sunim Gopi Chitta Samarapita Mohana Vivala Bhavasanim Gar Parivar Bisari Gopi Sagari Bhagachalim Bandhu Pitapati Bhai Varjita Mane Naeka Kalim Vrinda Vipina Nirakha Yamuna Tata Kunjame Krishna Dhanim Mohaka Murati Kamala Nayanam Hari Swagata Kari Vipina Mahu Murali Hat Saji. So in Vamshivat in Vrindavan, in the middle of the night, Krishna is playing the flute. Vipin means the forest. Mahu, in the forest. Now, Vamshi Hata Saji, the flute has decorated the hands of Sri Krishna. Look at this poetry of the Vrajvasi. A Navala Kishora. Kishore means the young son of Nanda Maharaj. The 15-year, 9-month-year-old Kishore. The Govindamadi Purusham that Lord Brahma is speaking of, the source of all the rasas, Om Janmadi Yasya, that Srimad Bhagwatam is speaking of. Navala Kishore, this Kishore is always new. Every time the gopis saw them, he looked so enchanting. That is a verse in the Bhagavad Brahma Samhita also. What is that verse? Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Nau Yauvanam Cha. Now, Yavana, he is always so youthful. It is not that, he looks the same. Every time the gopis, when they saw, he always looked so youthful, so young, so handsome. Navala Kishora, Navala Mana Mohana, and always so attractive. New attraction. Navala Swara Vamshivaji, and Krishna played new tunes on the not the same old record. He played new tunes on the flute. And then what happened? When he was playing this in the forest, all alone by himself, Klim Shrim Prema Ko Vardhak, Vamshi Gita Suni. So now Vamshi Gita means the Venu Gita. We find that in the Srimad Bhagwatam. I think this is chapter number 22nd of the 10th canto, either the 21st or the 22nd chapter. Klim Shrim Bija Ko Vardhak. Those who are twice initiated, we have that the Klim root in the last two mantras of the Gayatri that are of Vraj Bhav, of the Gopi Bhav. Of course, I'm not allowed to say it, because not everybody may be, and that would be transgression of the etiquette of those mantras. But that word klim shrim, bija prema ko vardak, the klim shrim bij is the root that actually enhances the madhurya rasa of attraction to Krishna. Bija ko vardak, vardak means to increase. The moment Vamshi Gita Suni, when they heard the flute of Krishna, Gopi Chitta Samarpita, they were sleeping in their houses, they woke up and they already surrendered their hearts to Krishna. Samarpita Mohana, Vivala Bhavasuni, and they became very agitated just by simply hearing the flute of Sri Krishna. Ghar Parivara, Bisari Gai Gopi, they left their husbands, they left their in-laws, they left their little children. Sagari Bhagachali, and they left everything, and they left their homes and they left for the forest, leaving everything behind. Bandhu Pita Bhai Barjita, they gave up their relatives, they gave up their brothers, etc. Manena Eka Kalim. So here the poet is saying Manena Eka Kalim, which is analogous to what Prabhupada is saying, that Sri Krishna tried to preach Karma Yoga. So when the gopis arrive, Krishna says, what are you doing here in the middle of the night? I am a brahmachari boy in the middle of the night in a secluded place in the forest. You have come to meet me? Go back. So here he is preaching to the gopis. What will the society say? It is immoral for you married gopis to come in the middle of the night and, to associate with a young boy. Just imagine. So here Prabhupada is saying that Krishna started preaching to them. But Manena Eka Kalim, they never listened to anything what Krishna said. Meaning, and then there's a wonderful rasic conversation where Krishna says, so she said, oh, now you're acting like Guru. So now come, you sit on the asan. And then the gopis cleared up a nice little area. They put some flowers. Come, my Gurudev, you're preaching Karma Yoga. So you sit on this asan and we will sit down and listen to it. And then Radharani rejects everything. So Krishna says, so now you're the Guru, then you should sit on the asan. So now this is rasa. So I said, yes, Lalita and Vishnu, yes, Radharani, you sit in the asana and now you start preaching. So Krishna says, yes, yes. So now I am the student, so now I'm going to ask you a question. So Radharani takes the Vyasasana and Krishna is asking, well, is it not written in the Vedas that one should be chaste to their husband? All the wives should be. And you're leaving them. And that is immoral. You should go back. How can you say that, So then Radharani says, well, now you listen to me, Krishna. And Vishaka and Lalita, they are fanning Radharani like how Prabhupada majestically, when he was sitting on the Vyasasana, and some of Prabhupada's disciples used to fan the charmer. He said, you listen. Okay, you really want to hear? So then Radharani says, she starts by giving a wonderful example, and then I will conclude. Because this is so much nectar in this chapter, I can't resist myself. So Radharani says that once upon a time, there was a very, very chaste wife. Hear me properly, Krishna. Are you hearing? Krishna says, yes, 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 I'm hearing. There was a very chaste wife. And the husband, she was so dedicated to the husband that she never ate anything. She only ate after the husband ate. And while the husband would eat, she would fan the husband. She would make all the best different foods that the husband liked. And then before the husband rested, she would, do charan seva. She would give him a nice, massage and fan him and look at all his comforts. And she was never thinking about her own self. And she was so chaste. So one day, this husband had to go far on a trip. And at that time, she was already feeling so much pain in the separation. Just the fact that the next morning, the husband was leaving on a very long trip, perhaps months. That's what the husband said. And with tears in her eyes and with so much pain, finally, husband leaves the house and she just looks at the path where he disappears into the horizon, crying. And every day she used to cry. And every day when she made some bhoga for the Lord to offer, she would cry and then she would offer it to the Lord. And then she would put a picture of her husband and offer the Mahaprasad to her husband. And then she would take the husband, the Maha, Krishna's prasadam offered to her husband, and then she would take it. So one day, while she just finished offering the bhoga to Krishna and picking up the prasad, and she started offering that thali, that plate, to her husband's picture. Knock, knock on the door. Guess what happened? So her husband was standing there. So Krishna, what do you think she should do? Should she continue offering that plate of prasadam to her husband's picture and make her husband wait outside while he's at the door? Or should she rush to the door, open the door, and welcome him inside? Krishna says, what kind of a question is that? Naturally, she should just simply drop everything, and there, lo and behold, her love of her life is present, and she should just simply go, drop everything, and open the doors and let him in. And that's what she said. That's exactly what we are doing, Krishna. You are the original husband. Everybody else that we are married to, they are simply your expansions, or they are some kind of a chaya, but you are the real kaya. So you are telling us to give up the original husband and go back to all those temporary relationships. So then Krishna was so pleased. So that is what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that Krishna first preached them karma yoga, go back, gave them gyan. But then Krishna understood their level of devotion. And due to that, that reward was, of course, along with other things, he started the Ras Leela. Sriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamshi Vatasa. And Gopinath is the one who started the Ras Leela. So this is, and that was the highest reward, where the crescendo in Raj Bhakti is the Ras Leela. There are many Ras Leelas, but especially the Ras Leela on the Sharad Purnima night in Kartik. This is the one we are referring to during the Venu Geet and then the post. So this is amazing how the rasa or the pranaya is the main thing. Sri Krishna, reality, the beautiful, the sweetness. That's what eventually we will all need to pray, that we may enter into that mood. Simply that spontaneous love beyond everything else. And that is basically what that verse from the Rasik angle of the Bhagavad Gita means. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. The gopis, they gave up all kinds of dharma. The dharma to their husbands, to the family, to the children, to the society. Sarva dharman parityajya, they gave it up. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. When they surrendered to Sri Krishna in the forest of Vrindavan, they only, so here in a very, very chana, in a very, very secret way, Krishna is expressing the Rasik sentence in the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, verse 66. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. And what is the result? Aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshashyami masaja. Of course, there is a external reason. Arjuna was afraid, so that is why he's saying you will incur sins. Krishna says, don't worry about that. But when the gopis are concerned, there is no sins. And that is why Mahaprabhu rejected this verse in the conversation between Rai Ramananda and himself. When he mentions Sarva Dharma Parityajya, Mahaprabhu says, this is external, tell me more. Because then the explanation that is given is because Arjuna was in fear, and Krishna had to assure him. But the first two lines are perfect. Gopis, they were not fearful of leaving their husbands or leaving their duties, the so-called duties, the worldly duties, and they surrendered. And what is the result? Result is Vraja. You get Vrajvas. You get Vrindavan. You get Golok Vrindavan. So that is the deeper meaning. So many different. That's the explanation of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur of this Sarva Dharman Parityajya. There is much more to it, but time is of the essence, so I stop here now. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Brahmar Geet. All glories to Prabhupada. So any questions or any comments quickly, if we want, we can take. Shri Kishore Kishori ki jai, Nitai Gaur Sundar, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Devi ki jai. Shri Prabhupada. Yes, Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the wonderful class. It was really very nice. So I had a question. You said that the Paramatma resides in the heart and he will do it as a duty even if we are doing things wrong. So then when he knows that we are going towards falling down towards hellish realms, then why wouldn't he stop us there and guide us in our heart to not take the wrong way and then liberate everybody, because he can just think about it and we will go in the right way and get liberated?
Very nice question. So the answer is there in the Kathopanishad. In the Kathopanishad, it is said that there are two birds sitting on a tree, and one bird is constantly busy, tasting the different fruits. Some are bitter, some are sour, some are sweet. When he gets the bitter and sour fruit, the bird is crying, "Oh, what did I get?" And the other bird is simply watching, simply a witness. And that bird is seeing that when will this fellow stop these activities and simply turn and look at me? So who are these two birds? The two birds, first bird who is constantly eating the fruits or enjoying or suffering the fruits is the soul. And the other one is the friend, Paramatma. So Paramatma is there in everybody's heart and he is a Surut. He is waiting for us simply to turn. He is known as Chaitya Guru. He is known as Chaitya Guru. Chaitya Guru means he is the Guru within the heart. But we have blocked ourselves so much that we cannot even hear his guidance. Sometimes when we are so infatuated with our lives, when we do so many absurd things, even the best of the advice given by our parents or a good friend, it doesn't enter. It doesn't enter our ears. What to talk about entering our hearts? It just bounces off. Because we are so infatuated. Dhayato vishayapam sam sangaste pujayate sangat sanjayate kamat kamat krodho bijayate krodhat bhavati sammoha sammohat smriti vibramahat buddhinashat pranashyati. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Somebody is so contemplating or who is always engrossed in all material things, and when they don't get it, then they become angry and then illusion arises, and when illusion arises, intelligence is polluted, and when intelligence is polluted, then there is a fall down. So that's number one to answer part A of your question. Part B, every one of us has got minute independence. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mama Yamsha Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatan. Every living entity is my part and parcel. So I will give you a very quick example. Let's say this shawl that I'm wearing is woolen, pure wool. And if I take one small thread from this, what is the quality? Is it cotton? No. Whatever the quality of this is, it's woolen. If this is pure wool, this thread is also pure wool. If, let's say, as an analogy, if this represents Krishna, the vast, and we are the infinitesimal, it is mentioned that Krishna is fully independent. Srimad Bhagwatam, first verse. Om Janmadi Yasya Yato Anvayad Itaratascha Arteshu Abhigya Swarat. Swarat. The word Swarat, Krishna is fully independent. And because we are his parts and parcels, we have got all those qualities. So he is Vibhu and we are Anu. Vibhu means unlimited or great, and Anu means very atomic. So because he has got full independence of Swarat, we have minute independence as well. So that he cannot interfere with. Otherwise, we are not his part and parcels. If he takes this away, he takes it away from the jivas, then we are not his part and parcels. This is by default. We have this minute independence. And how we use this minute independence is totally up to us. So, as an example, Krishna spoke to Duryodhan. He gave him so good advice, gave Dhritarashtra great advice. You know, these are Kshatriyas, Pandavas, just give them 5 pieces of land. Duryodhana said, I will not even give them enough land that will go on the pinhead. Not even that much land. So much diplomacy and everything that was tried. The Supreme Personality of Godhead tried to convince so many different demoniac personalities, but they never listened. Even they personally were present. because they did not use their minded independence correctly. So Krishna says, okay, so be it. So that is the reason, whatever your question, now I hope it answers your question, Mataji, that why doesn't he stop that? Why doesn't he do that? And a third part of your answer is that according to the laws of karma, supposing if somebody has to get robbed, I'm giving you a very simple example, then that person's karma is such that maybe in the past life he had robbed somebody. So somebody has to be an instrument to rob that person. And depending on the intensity of who wants to rob who, Krishna will make them the instrument to give misery or to rob that other person. Do you get the idea? So for example, if I am a robber, okay, and I want to rob somebody, so Krishna knows that, okay, that fellow there, you go pick his pocket, because in his last life he did a lot of robbery. So he will give me the intelligence, and if my intensity is there to use my minded independence to rob that person, so perfect fitting. The law of karma will find the right pair. So that's why we find that there are so many people suffering. Apparently we look at it from a very narrow tube, but we don't know what their past history is based on. Same thing, that's what I mentioned to John, that little infant that has just died has a history. Because in a past life, that little infant must have done some karma. And that karma has short-lived the life to a few months or a couple months before it died so fast. And many people, even in Sanatana Dharma, I hate to use the word Hinduism, they say that, God is not fair. Apparently a little child has not even done any karma. Yeah, he has not even done any karma. And how is it that the child is suffering so much? But see, it is a transmigration of the soul from the past lives. So that is the reason Krishna will never interfere. And giving up that minded independence to Krishna voluntary, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that as Sharanagati. We can give up everything. Like even when we are on the devotional platform, we can give up money. We can give up the association of the opposite sex. We can give up our assets, manasa, deha, geha, jo kichu more, arpilu tuapade nanda kishore. But that jo kichu more also includes that minded independence. Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that in that bhajan, that I even surrender my minded independence unto you, O Krishna. Dayama magela tuapada o varane. Now I do not have even my own minded independence to make any more decisions. So all my daitva is at your lotus feet, O Krishna. That is the highest surrender. So I hope that answers your question, Mataji. I was a little bit more explicit, and I am hoping that it did do a little justice. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Grantraj Srimad Bhagwatam ki jai.